Hello everyone. So in this session, I'm going to discuss about how to add an element in the list using Ansible code. Also, we'll see few example in Python. Adding element is much easier in Ansible, right? And we'll see what all the options we have, how to define a variable before you adding to the element in the list, right? So whatever program you define, so you have to define the element before you doing some operation, right? So in Ansible, how we define the element, how we add, and with a variable option like a define some static value to add the list, or you pass the parameter as a value and then add the list. So these option we'll be seeing in this session. I'm in my Ansible system, so I'm gonna create a playbook where it's going to add the element into the list, right? So I'll call it add element YAML. So YAML starting, I'm just defining the name to add the element in list. It's fine. So hostess, I have no constraint, just bringing all and task, right? So so here I'm gonna define my play, which is add element. So the very first time I'm going to see how to add some static value into the list. So here I just want to show you one thing. So how to define a variable also, and how to add the element. Let's see, I'm gonna call my variable name is list. So open up parenthesis and just say list. If the list is not defined, you just saying list, right? If the list is not defined, say default value. Okay, default for the list is empty. So this is how we define a variable if not defined already. And I'm gonna use a bunch of items here. So with the item will add. Okay, so I'm doing like this. So with items, so I'm gonna give my list here, apple, orange, let's say. Okay, so this is my playbook, will add, and then I'm gonna debug the values of list. So good to go. We'll run the playbook. Ansible -play -i try add element dot. So in this example, we just define some problem. List is default, can only concatenate list. Okay, got you. So since list is the list, default I defined a empty string, right? Empty list. So I need to say the concatenate item also is going to be a list. So I just added the square bracket between the item. So it's going to be fine now. See, our input is orange apple and we got output orange apple. So it's become list format now, right? So few things you need to consider here. The default value is empty. What will happen if I remove my default value, right? I'm gonna remove my default. If I run now, it's gonna throw the list is not defined. See, it's a because undefined variable. Otherwise, what you have to do is you can introduce the variable called vars, and you define list is empty kind of thing. Now you can run the playbook. Right, now it works. So instead of defining over here, you can define here itself. That's pretty much good idea, I think. So based on your requirement, you go with your play. Okay, awesome. So here we see how to define a list, any variable. There are two methods. In the var section you can define, or you can say the default value for the list. You can give any value, so it will if not defined, it will take the default as empty, and then we added the items. Right, now let's see how to pass the variable here. Okay, I'm gonna introduce another variable called element. Right, so this element, whatever value in the element will be added here. So I'm going to say grape Okay, now I'm going to use another option to add the element. I'm going to pass the variable when I run the playbook. Right, so that one I want to get added. So let's create one variable here, and we'll add here apple and orange and lime. Okay, and instead of providing the value, I'm going to say here my variable name. Let's see here, I'm going to call element. Now let's run. So this time I'm gonna get all three values, right? Okay, now I want to pause the element when I ran. So what will happen if I pause some element here? Let's try. So I'm going to say element. So here I'm going to say just apple I'm going to give. Right, so when we run the extra variable, that is going to be most persistent value. See, now it takes the apple. What will happen if I, because since we gave only one, if I give one more line, I'm going to one more variable, right? So here is the tricky part you have. So it's going to take this both as a single variable. It's not going to take as a list. So what you have to do is go here and add, hey, if you have something, if my variable is string, right, you would need to split it my things. Split the comma. Now let's run. So it's going to get the value what we need, the apple and lime we got. But what will happen if you're not passing any things? So it's going to fail because it's trying to split your object, which is list, which is already defined here. So it's not going to be a good idea. So what we'll do is we'll introduce one more condition here. When my element, when element type debug not equal to list, you go ahead and split it, otherwise just add it. So I'm going to copy the entire play once again, right? 1 2 3 4 5 lines or 6 lines we have. So I'm going to paste it here. So here I'm going to say if list, don't need to split it, that's all. Now let's run the play. It's list, okay. Sorry, I need to remove entire thing. That's all. Okay, that's a mistake. Here you go. Now it's going to be run again. Yeah. Awesome, isn't it? Now also we can run using the extra variable. It's going to be perfectly all right. Awesome. That's what we expected. Awesome. So you have understand how we pass the element and add into the list, and how to define a variables. There are two ways. You define it in the variable section, or if not define, you define on the play section itself, and if you pass it as a string, split it using the separated values. So these are all things we have seen in this session. Hope this would be help for you. Yeah, that's all I have in this session. Thanks for watching my video. Have a good life. Bye bye. See you.